So we have officially entered the 80s with Bryan Singer's fourth crack at the X-Men franchise. Will this movie's mutant powers be as awesome as Jimmy's healing factor? Or will it be totally lame like Jubilee's firework hands? Yeah, fucking Katy Perry has that mutant ability. While Bryan Singer may not have a good track record with sexual assault against younger men, he certainly has a stellar streak of X-Men movies. So where does Apocalypse fall on the spectrum? In all honesty, about dead center. Apocalypse is not the best X-Men movie, but by no means is it the worst. It's pretty middle of the road, and that isn't really a bad thing. This is a totally serviceable X-Men movie, and there are some really awesome things in it, and some kind of lame things. So as always, let's start with the positives. The cast is by and large very good. The new cast is pretty awesome. I like Ty Sheridan as a young Scott Summers. Cody Smith-McPhee is great as a Nightcrawler. Olivia Munn, Alexander Shipp, they're all great. Most of the newcomers are just, they're good. We have McAvoy and Fassbender returning and killing it, as always. Roden Spurn is back in this one and is great. Evan Peters once again steals every scene he's in, and Oscar Isaac does a damn good job playing our titular bad guy. Sophie Turner has the Jean Grey look, but is ultimately kind of wooden in a good amount of her scenes. It really saddens me to say that one of the weakest performances in this film is Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique. She appears totally disinterested in every scene she's in. I noticed this a little bit in Days of Future Past, but it's a bummer to see her sleepwalk through almost every scene in this movie, especially when she's built up to be the emotional core of this film. The action in this movie is handled very well. Wolverine's cameo is pretty damn badass. I really wish they didn't spoil it in the trailer, but I suppose we better get used to that type of treatment. We get to see a variety of mutant powers used in really interesting and fun ways. The best example being the Quicksilver scene. His big scene is the highlight of the film. It's also one of the only scenes to effectively play with the film's 80s setting. It's too bad because this scene, along with another sequence, are the only ones to really have fun with this setting. It seems like a real missed opportunity. I mean, this movie, apart from the continuity, didn't have to be set in the 80s. It was pretty cool to see them come together as a team and fight an opponent that posed such a physical threat to them. Oscar Isaac is definitely intimidating as Apocalypse. As a franchise, the X-Men movies don't usually have a big bad. In fact, with the exception of X-Men 1 and First Class, we usually see them dealing with much bigger issues. Not to say that the end of the world isn't a big issue, but to be honest, in this context, it almost isn't. And I know that's a total contradiction, but allow me to elaborate. There are two issues at play here: escalation and the Deadpool effect. Escalation. The franchise is officially done after this. They have to scale it way back and start doing smaller mission-based movies, because at this point, there is no place else to go. And that's the problem with having your heroes literally save the world. Narratively, you cannot one-up that. You can only repeat it. The Deadpool effect. This is what happens when you see a movie in the X-Men franchise after seeing Deadpool. The climax of Deadpool is done in a very small and very smart way. For Wade, the stakes are high. But the world will find what he does ultimately inconsequential. That choice made sure the climax was personal, and frankly, took the piss out of doing these insanely big-scale endings. After seeing this, it was very difficult for me to take this movie seriously. The end of this film is just too damn big to take seriously, and too impersonal to get invested. The thing that saves this movie from mediocrity is our connection to the characters that we've seen for 2 or 3 films now. My other big gripe with the film is what it does with Charles and Eric's relationship, which is essentially nothing. They barely share 2 scenes of screen time in this movie. This is a huge misstep, because their relationship was always the absolute best part of these movies. This is what happens though when you try to juggle so many characters, like Jubilee. Hope you weren't going to see this movie because of her, because she literally doesn't do anything, like at all. If you want to see her, you can watch like the awesome online marketing, but I swear to God, she has more lines in that than in the movie. And like, yeah, like her powers, her mutant power might as well be being Asian and wearing a yellow fucking raincoat, because that's all she does in the movie. You know, leave it to Fox to fucking hire an Asian actor in a movie that's almost entirely full of white people and then put her on the bench the entire time. Way to go! Now, I know it seems like there are a lot of really negative points in this review, but overall, I did like the movie. If I had to put it on my spectrum of X-Men franchise, it would probably be in between X-Men 1 and X-Men Days of Future Past. The way I break down my spectrum, as you saw before, is X-Men 2, First Class, Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, X-Men 1, and the absolutely awful X-Men 3. Those are just the main ones. The Wolverine, I don't necessarily bring that in here. Wow, the Wolverine's awesome. Wolverine Origins didn't happen! It didn't happen. But yeah, go into this movie, keep your expectations in check, and you're going to have a really good time. It'll be awesome. Or, it'll be fun.